Welcome aboard Imagination Skyway, your guided tour through the worlds of Disney and Imagineering. I'm Matthew Krull, your host on this panoramic journey, and I'm on a mission to better understand the stories and places we love and the people who bring them to life. In today's episode, we discuss the 70th anniversary of Disneyland Celebrate Happy, a year-long celebration that includes special entertainment, anniversary decor and merchandise, festive food and drink, attraction updates, and unique experiences. Whether you've never been to Disneyland or you're planning your 70th trip to Anaheim, our conversation includes specific information about Disneyland's Platinum Anniversary, personal anecdotes, and advice for anyone looking to visit the Disneyland Resort in 2025 or 2026. As you fasten your seatbelt, I encourage you to take out your mobile devices and search for Imagination Skyway on your favorite social media app. Better yet, if you're looking for ad-free episodes, bonus content, or the ability to comment directly on the podcast, head to patreon.com/imaginationskyway, where you can sign up for a free account or a premium subscription. And if this episode leaves you yearning for a trip to Disney or any other destination, feel free to reach out to our partners and sponsors at KMV Travel by visiting kmvtravel.com/skyway. As we begin our journey, please remain seated, keep your hands and arms inside the podcast at all times, and enjoy your journey aboard Imagination Skyway. It seems like every couple of years there is another reason to head to a Disney resort, whether it is Walt Disney World or Disneyland or any other Disney destination internationally. And this year, the place to go, well, there's many places to go, but one of the places to go would be the Disneyland Resort, because Disneyland is celebrating its 70th anniversary, and doing so with a celebration that they're calling Celebrate Happy. And today, what we want to do is, since this is still within the first month and a half of this year-long celebration, we want to recap or discuss what you can experience when you go to visit Disneyland, why this might be a great time to head to the Disneyland Resort, whether it's your first time or if you're traveling back to Anaheim, and share some of our thoughts about the experience in person. To do so, of course, I use the word we, because I'm recording this ahead of my trip for the Disneyland 70th anniversary. I will be going in July, but my two guests, fortunately, have both been for the 70th anniversary and can share their experiences with us. So I want to first welcome back Kelly Craig from KMV Travel. Kelly, welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited for this discussion. I'm always excited for our discussions, but this one for sure.
We've had lots of Walt Disney World discussions. This is our first real focus on Disneyland, so that will be exciting. And I think the same is true for you, Steph Schuster from WDW Magazine. I think this is our first foray into a Disneyland conversation.
I think it is, and Disneyland is so close to my heart. I grew up on the West Coast, so all my early family vacations were there, and I still don't tell Disney World, but I feel like that's my home park. So this was really special to be able to be there for the anniversary.
You're not alone. Anyone who has been going to Disneyland since they were young, I think, especially if you grew up on the West Coast or if you were going to Disneyland more than Walt Disney World, you probably are in the camp of Disneyland is better. And then, of course, the folks who grew up going to Walt Disney World usually say that Walt Disney World is better. Yeah. And I think you can't lose either one you pick. They're both great places to go. So to frame our conversation, before we get into the meat of this discussion, I like to, as always, I've been doing this more and more, ask rapid fire questions. It used to be just for first time guests, and now it's made its way to repeat guests as well, always specific to the topic at hand. So I'm going to go in the same order and then maybe flip things around a little bit. I have three rapid fire questions. I'll do them one at a time. Kelly, I'm going to ask you first this first question. What is your favorite attraction at the Disneyland Resort?
Oh, this is difficult because even though Walt Disney World is my home park, Disneyland is like my vacation park because it's not the home park. So I think there's a lot of them that I like. But This is just going to be timely, and I'll probably change my answer later, but I'm going to say Monsters Inc. Mike and Sully to the rescue. I just, I want to sign the petition for it to stay. I'm very excited about the changes, but it's got a place in my heart.
It's bittersweet when Disney announces those changes and we lose something great like that. I will have to pay my respects to it as I visit Disneyland too. And I'm a big fan of Pandora, the World of Avatar at Animal Kingdom. So I am also excited to see what they come up with, especially for that space. Seems like they're gonna maybe expand a little bit back into the berm, but it's definitely a interesting space, their footprint that they're going to be working with. Steph, how about you? Your favorite attraction at Disneyland?
It's a toss up between Big Thunder Mountain when I'm feeling adventurous, and It's a Small World, especially if it's at Christmas. That's going to win.
Yeah, I'm going to give you one for each park too, because I am a true Pirates of the Caribbean fan. Disneyland's my favorite version. Magic Kingdom's version has got the superior queue, I think. I love waiting in that queue and feeling like you're in a real old Spanish fort. But the ride at Disneyland is it's definitely superior, and it's one of my favorites at Disneyland, period. And then the second, more modern answer I'll give is Radiator Springs Racers, Disney California Adventure, is such a fun attraction. It's an example of Imagineering masterclass and just purely creating an attraction that's a whole lot of fun and filled with some really cool Imagineering special effects and details and storytelling. So those will be my two. For this next one, let's switch it. So, Steph, I'll go to you first.
Okay.
What is your favorite restaurant at the Disneyland Resort?
Oh, that's a hard one for me, Matt. But if I'm going to pick, I guess, rapid fire, I would say Rancho del Zocalo. I love
Popular one.
Mexican food. I do like a sit down, but I love quick service because I like the freedom and flexibility of not having to have everything scheduled out. And I feel like it always really hits their seasonal specials, their seasonal coffees, agua frescas. Sometimes they do like what I call a life-saving pozole soup in the wintertime. And that's what I'm going to go with.
That's a great answer. Kelly, how about you?
Well, I feel like I need to be heading over that way more often now that you say this all, but I am going to say Aunt Cass's Cafe. I guess I have a lot going on over at DCA there, but I agree. A quick service at Disneyland is just can't be beat. There's some great table service options. Lamplight Lounge is always wonderful, and over at Carthay Circle. But yeah, I'm normally you can catch me at Aunt Cass's Cafe.
That's a great answer too. This is always, I agree with both of you. It's really hard to pick, especially because Disneyland is filled with so much incredible food. But one that's only at Disneyland, several that are only at Disneyland, but one that I was really pleasantly surprised my last trip to Disneyland experiencing for the first time. So perhaps it's still that newness factor for me. But Tiana's Palace and New Orleans Square, I'm a huge fan of New Orleans Square in general. So that whole vibe and dining outside right by the Disneyland train station. But then the food is sensational. It's really, really good quick service food. And then, of course, you can head right over to Pirates of the Caribbean. And so it's conveniently located for me right nearby. But you're right. There's so much to enjoy. This last question, we'll really go. It's just three questions. I'll go first for this one. What is one thing about Disneyland that's better than Walt Disney World? And I'm actually going to go back to my last answer. The food at Disneyland is better than Walt Disney World. There are some exceptions. There's, of course, some great food. I still love me some Walt Disney World snacks and restaurants, but overall, the food at Disneyland is so much better than the food at Walt Disney World. They increase that they raise the bar at Disneyland, and I don't know if it's because they're catering more to the locals or if it's because they have more experience. I don't know what it is, but they really do an incredible job with Disneyland. Let's see. I'll go back to Kelly for this one. So Kelly, what's one thing you love more about Disneyland?
I think, there's so many different things I could talk about, but from a travel advisor standpoint, I love planning a first visit to Disneyland with a family, especially when they have young children, because Disney World, as wonderful as it is, it can be very, very overwhelming to families, especially when they're trying to decide, well, do I get a park hopper? Do I do this? A lot of the answers with Disneyland are a lot more straightforward because it can be, well, you can literally walk across the street to the next park. And, if your child decides they don't want to do princesses today, they can go over to DCA. So I think it's a great park to have as your first Disney destination, your intro into Disney. And of course, because it was the first Disney, I think you have that element too.
Yeah, that's a great response too. How about you, Steph?
I'm going to say the size and walkability. Obviously, we're walking everywhere at Disney World too, but it's just so easy, like Kelly said, to go from park to park. I like to be up first thing to be there for rope drop, but I like to stay till the kiss goodnight if I can, but I need a nap in the middle. I don't have to waste an hour in each direction getting to my hotel. Like if I take a 2 hour break, it's a 2 hour break. And that even extends to some of the Good Neighbor hotels that you can walk right across the street. It's just as close as going to the Disneyland hotel. So I think that makes it really, really easy for people to experience everything the park has to offer without getting too exhausted.
Yeah, that walkability is such a huge game player with a difference maker for Disneyland, especially if you've got young kids.
Mm.
Just that your point, Steph. I mean, adults need that afternoon nap, but the ability for us to walk back with our kids to any of the Disneyland resorts, even honest, arguably if you're staying off property too. I mean, they're right, especially if you're right there on South Harbor Boulevard. I mean, you can just head right across the street and head back to the hotel as easy as you would be walking from Magic Kingdom back to Bay Lake Tower. It's super convenient.
And if you're staying anywhere else at Disney World, it's from the gates to the bus loop or whatever the transport is. Then when you get off that transport, you probably have to walk that same distance to get to your room. I do love the scale of those resorts, but it's just so easy at Disneyland.
Yeah. If you've got that farthest room at Kidani and you're coming from Magic Kingdom, it could be an expedition to get back from Fantasylands to your room
At least that's
at Kidani
thematic.
Village. Yeah, very much so. So, talking about Disneyland, the celebration kicked off, or the 70th anniversary, I should say. The celebration kicked off May 16th, and it is continuing through summer of 2026. It could be extended, and we don't know exactly when they're going to decide to cut it off. But before we get into the specifics of what's offered, I'm curious why guests should consider visiting Disneyland during this celebration, whether they are repeat guests or first time visitors. And Kelly, because I'm sure you've had a few conversations about this already, what would you say are a few of the reasons why first timers or repeat guests should consider heading to Disneyland over the next, we'll say, 12 to 14 months?
Yeah. So if you look at it from like a value standpoint, I think there's so much value that you're getting out of a visit to Disneyland at this point. A lot of the times when families are going, especially if they come from Disney World, they're so confused about the fact that there's not like a fireworks show and there's not a nighttime parade every day at Disneyland. So they've kind of this is like the time where I'm like, guys, this is the time to go because paint the night we know is going to be every night. So you have that. Some, fireworks are still going to be at only certain dates, depending on when you're going, but you're going to have so many different things that when you aren't here during the celebration, you wouldn't be able to see. So for first time people or for families that maybe this is something that you do, every 10 years, this is a great time to go. But for people that have been and, where it's the kind of the three of us where we go very often, very lucky, there's still so many new things for us to experience or things that maybe we've missed from past celebrations like Paint the Night coming back. So there's just the entertainment. I mean, I'm so excited to get into that because when I was there, I was like, okay, I can't get on any rides because I got to get to this entertainment. And I've told all my families that you've got to at least do 3 days if you really want to make sure that you're getting into everything and being able to experience it all.
Yeah, Steph, what would you add to that?
Well, my answer was going to be very similar, and I think that the fact that they do have some new entertainment offerings, but they brought back kind of their greatest hits, and because they're really talking about this as being the best birthday celebration ever, that makes me think of like when I was a kid and I would be like to my mom, make me fettuccine alfredo for dinner. That was my favorite thing. Make me my favorite cake for my birthday cake. So they've brought back the parades and the fireworks shows that are people's favorites, and I think that that's great, especially if you miss them or if you missed mixed them all together. And then, like Kelly said, there's so many new things and like special touches that they've done with a lot of interactivity points that might get repeat guests like us to go explore the lands further. When you're a veteran or an expert of these parks, you don't necessarily get into the nitty gritty. Maybe the three of us do, but you don't necessarily get into the nitty gritty all the time. And I think that they're making it really fun to re-explore and relearn the park.
And this is one of I'm like Kelly excited about the entertainment. And one of the reasons I always love to go to Disneyland again is if there's a new World of Color show, and knowing that they have a new World of Color show is very exciting. And I've admittedly not seen spoilers for this. When we talk about it, feel free, you can spoil it for me. It's perfectly fine. But I have not seen any spoilers for it, and I'm excited to go and see it because I still am a huge fan of World of Color. I say it's my favorite nighttime spectacular. I pretty much stand by that. It's still my favorite to go and see, especially with the dessert party. Makes it all the better. But seeing a new World of Color show for me always makes it worth that Disneyland trip. We're going to maybe start with entertainment, but I forgot to ask, when you went on your 70th anniversary stays, which hotel, or if you did a split stay, which hotels did you stay at? And what was your review of that experience for the 70th anniversary? I'll flip. Steph, why don't you go first for this one?
I stayed at the Disneyland Hotel, which is actually my very favorite of all the hotels anywhere. I think, again, I have that nostalgia growing up going there, staying with my family every time, but I just love the vibe there. It's the only place that I can think that my husband and I get up in the morning and we actually stop and we go down and we have breakfast at Tangaroa Terrace, and it's very calm. Nobody's rushing to get all the buses and the monorails and everything. It's not a frenzy. It is so chill there, and I love that. And they really gussied it up, right? Obviously, they have all the merch and the snacks and everything available, but they had balloons and banners and celebratory things, and I thought that was really, really nice. I'll never turn down a stay at the Disneyland Hotel.
Yeah, it's the original. Kelly, where did you stay?
So I was just a few steps the other way. I was at Grand Californian, and you walk into the lobby, and every time you walk into that lobby, it's always just breathtaking. And I did have several times where I just sat in the lobby. It was very hot when I was there, and that was extremely nice to be literally next door, or basically inside the park when you're in California Adventure. But again, the banners, the balloons, the decorations, that was one of the elements that I think was really well done with this celebration when I was taking it all in, was the decorations. I think it looked beautiful. It didn't take away, even though it was these very bright colors and everything. It really added to the experience you were having, no matter what destination you were in within the resorts.
Yeah, and that I know is one of the elements of the 70th anniversary. And since I have not been there, can highlight some of the fact sheet, right? The things that we know are different for the 70th. But then I'd be curious to, as I said, get your personal experiences and anecdotes from enjoying the 70th anniversary. And this whole celebration includes, as we said, special entertainment, and then they do have that anniversary decor. They are featuring what they're calling new magic on beloved attractions. There's, of course, that must-have merchandise. There's specialty food and drink for the celebration, and overall new delights as you walk through the Disneyland Resort, including some new experiences. And especially because, Kelly, you mentioned you're excited about the entertainment, and I also am excited to see the entertainment. We could go through some of this, but there are, first of all, if you're a fan of the Jonas Brothers, they have created the theme song, or they sing the theme song for the 70th anniversary, which is called Celebrate Happy. And you don't have to go to Disneyland to hear that. You can stream it on major streaming services from the music from Disneyland Resort 70th Celebration album. As I mentioned, there's World of Color Happiness as this nighttime show for Disney California Adventure. There's Paint the Night, as Kelly mentioned, at Disneyland. They brought back, to Steph's point about bringing back the big hits, Wondrous Journeys at Disneyland, which was a very well celebrated and well loved show from just a few years ago. Better Together, Pixar Pal Celebration Parade at Disney California Adventure. Tapestry of Happiness projection mapping show on It's a Small World. The Celebrate Happy Cavalcade and Mickey and Friends feature new 70th attire. This is all bundled under entertainment. So
I have one
those are,
guest, Matt.
yeah. What would I miss? What I miss?
It's really tiny, and I hope you get to see it when you go, but it's called A Touch of Magic, and it's a tiny 2-minute projection show on the Carthay Circle Theater that just happens spontaneously throughout the night. So I think every few minutes it probably does its little thing, and it's really cute.
I'm glad you mentioned it to me, and I will be sure not to miss it when I go, or I will do my best. You know, every time I go on one of these trips, especially when it's not a family trip, it's a podcast sprint. I am so my list is pages long in a Word doc, and so I'm just like, oh, I gotta go, I gotta go. I can't stay here and watch, but I'm gonna do my best to make sure I do experience that. So let's go through. I don't want to go necessarily through each of these one by one, but I'm curious what you personally got to experience when you were there and what some of your favorite entertainment experiences were, favorite moments, anything that you would want to come home and share with your friends and family to say that they have to make sure they check it out. Like, Steph, to your point, a touch of magic on the Carthay Circle restaurant. And I'll start with you, Steph, since you had added that one to the list. What were some of the things that you did get to experience and some of the highlights from the entertainment for you?
I thought that the Tapestry of Happiness, the really quick show they do a few times a night on Small World, was great, and it can be enjoyed even without the fireworks. I know that they do projection shows of Wondrous Journeys without fireworks and with fireworks on different nights, but every night you can see this, and it's so upbeat, it's so nostalgic. You will cry many times while you see this. It will just hit you in your heartstrings. So I really love that. I am a massive Paint the Night fan. I'm a massive Main Street Electrical Parade fan, and Paint the Night just turns the volume up on that. So I was over the moon to see them bring that back. And I was actually really surprised. This is not necessarily part of the celebration, but they released it at the same time. It's the new Disney Junior Mickey Mouse Clubhouse live show. That is a really good show, whether you're there with kids or not with kids. And I was surprised by that. Oh, and the Muppets pre-show for World of Color Happiness is worth seeing. I don't know why you wouldn't want to stick around for World of Color, but even if you're not a World of Color fan, you've got to go see this Muppets pre-show.
And especially with the timing, again, of things going away. If you're a Walt Disney World fan and you go to Walt Disney World and now Muppets Courtyard is gone, this is a Muppets experience to go and experience over at Disneyland. So another reason to head over there. And Kelly, same for you. When it came to entertainment, what were some of the things you got to experience and some highlights from you for the entertainment at the parks?
Yeah, so I was exactly like you, like the Word document, and I was checking everything off as I was going. So the only thing I didn't get to experience was Touch of Magic. So I'll have to do that one. I will say if you're trying to kind of plan out your day, they don't have times for that, like Steph said. So that one is definitely going to be more of a, you do get those little bits of magic as you're walking through and you get to see it. So that's going to be one where I'm going to have to try to make sure I get my magic next time when I go. But I did Paint the Night. And I did do the dining package. That's only available right now through kind of the middle of August, August 21st, I believe you can book it through. So that was a great option to do because Paint the Night is so popular. They were actually closing off the viewing area about an hour before the parade started. So I've been telling all my families, if you're not going to do that as an option where you kind of have that reserved viewing, just consider getting there a bit early. We always kind of have our tips and tricks, go to Small World area versus going to Main Street, but that was really great to do. It was really great to see Paint the Night. I remember seeing that with my husband, who was at that point my boyfriend, when we had traveled for the first time together. So there's a lot of moments that, we've kind of had that was special to see Paint the Night. I did do World of Color and I did the dessert party. It was like, let me get everything in the most, convenient way possible this time. So I went all out with these and I love the dessert party. I think it's always a great option. If it's in budget to do that, you get a great view and you do get a great spread of desserts. You also get a pin now in your little box. Yeah. So that was exciting. But World of Color, I agree with Steph. Everybody needs to do that one at least once during their trip. There's tons of viewing areas. This is one that If you don't want to get there an hour before, you definitely can get there a bit closer to the show, and you're still going to get a great view because of just the enormity of that show. But I thought that was really well done. And the voting that you can do during the day, where you get to vote for which emotion through the app, that was fun. I saw some families kind of they were basically arguing which emotion they were going to vote for. So, but it was a really cute little addition that they had to that. And I loved the tapestry of happiness. I thought that was great. I'm a big Jonas Brothers fan, so this was like epic for me to be in Disneyland and seeing them, having the songs that were playing and everything. And I thought the addition of Duffy and Shelley May was so great to the cavalcade. That was really cute to see. So overall, I was like, none of them were ones that I was like, you can miss. So that's why I say, like, you got to have at least 3 days because these are all such must do experiences.
To your point about the cavalcade, Kelly, I also loved it, but I love that with the cavalcades, they're so quick and short, and you can just show up. It's not like when you have to line up for a parade for a great
Yes.
an hour in advance. It's so easy to fit it into your day. And I don't know if you know, but Duffy's anniversary, he's having his 20th anniversary this year. And the Muppets are celebrating 70 as well. So it's a birthday party for everyone.
Banner year,
Certainly
really, across the
milestones. Yeah.
board. Yeah.
I didn't realize Duffy's 20 years. That's it feels like Duffy was just introduced, but thinking back, you're right. It was probably 20 years ago that Duffy has been a part of the Disney family. So that's like you said, a lot to celebrate, a lot of anniversaries sort of coinciding at once. And by the way, with Paint the Night, I know it's not a Disneyland topic, but I am very excited to see Disney Starlight at Magic Kingdom. And I've said that with all of the announcements for what's coming. Yes, we're getting an Epcot Lounge, yet a new test track, like all this great stuff, a Pirates of the Caribbean tavern that we're going to get. Sure, all wonderful. I am most excited about Disney Starlight because it has been sorely missed for me at Walt Disney World to spend time at Magic Kingdom enjoying a nighttime parade. It is definitive for a lot of my childhood to go see Spectrum Magic and Main Street Electrical Parade, Paint the Night at Disneyland, and now Disney Starlight at Magic Kingdom.
I think a nighttime parade in a castle park is just a quintessential part of the experience.
It is. It definitely is. Let's shift to we two things that were brought up previously, entertainment and decor. And I know this one is not as extensive of a discussion, but each of you mentioned that there are additions to the Disneyland Hotel and to Disney Grand Californian. And there's also, I know this 50-foot sculpture that's in the Esplanade that's inspired by Sleeping Beauty Castle. There's of course, as usual with an anniversary or with a celebration of any kind, an updated Mickey floral at the entrance to Disneyland Park. They have an installation featuring Mickey and Minnie in Town Square. There's, of course, the 70th anniversary medallion adorning Sleeping Beauty Castle. There's the signage on Carthay Circle Restaurant for the 70th anniversary, decor at Downtown Disney and beyond. So outside of the decor at the hotels, when it came to the parks, Steph, I'll start with you. What did you think of the decor for the 70th anniversary?
I thought it was really beautiful, and it gave sometimes at these things they pick like a very strong color palette that maybe clashes with certain things in the park, but they have to carry it through. This really had that birthday feel, like your mom just came in with all the rainbow streamers and put them everywhere, but it still looked like your house, just fancied up for you. So I really liked that. I thought the colors enhanced everything. To your point about the Mickey and Minnie installation on Main Street, they actually have several of those throughout the Disney California Adventure, Downtown Disney, and at the hotels that feature different characters. And we were told at our media event about this that they polled to see what the most popular characters were and then used those on the installations so that people could have another way to interact with their favorites. So, like, I saw Stitch and Angel, I saw Ariel, there's a bunch of different ones.
Kelly, how about you?
Yeah, there was I agree. I think that the colors that they picked and everything were so emblematic of a celebration, and it did a really great job at kind of continuing the celebration throughout the entire resort, but it didn't overpower in any way either. And those installations that they have, they're cool. They have, if you have Magic Band Plus, there's just little engagements that you can do, interactions there. So it's nice. There's a lot of different things that are not just kind of like a banner or something. It's really more of an engaging celebration than I think we've seen in the past, even outside of the parks. So even if you're just at downtown Disney, there's a lot of things that you can still interact and kind of get involved in the celebration.
Yeah, the Magic. I'm bringing my Magic Band Plus with me when I go because I'm excited to see those activations, and it's one of the things I love about having Magic Band Plus is the interactivity in the parks, and especially now that Maggie is older and she's using a Magic Band for entry into the parks, and she and I were bonding over our Magic Bands lighting up different colors on different experiences at Walt Disney World. I'm excited to see what happens at Disneyland, especially around the 70th anniversary. So those activations seem really cool. I was going to ask you about that. So let's actually jump to the next thing I had on my list, which is the one that especially the Imagineering fans are going to always enjoy talking about the most, which is the attractions, because this is one of those times where they featured a couple of updates to, I'm going to say there are three attractions here. There are two that are updated and you can currently experience. So those are It's a Small World now features Miguel and Dante from Coco. And then Toy Story Midway Mania has nods to the 70th, but also coming up July 17th, which is the 70th anniversary of Disneyland, which is a very fitting day, is the debut of Walt Disney: A Magical Life, which is going to be that 15-minute show that's going to include the first ever Walt Disney animatronic. It's going to have him sitting in his office, and it's up. There's going to be an updated lobby experience. It's going to happen over at the Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln theater. So, and it's going to rotate. Those two shows will rotate. So we're gonna bucket that here, even though it's not live yet. And of course, neither of you had the opportunity to experience it when you went. But between those three, we'll start with we'll cover all three of them. And Kelly, I'll go to you first for this one. Did you get to experience It's a Small World and Toy Story Midway Mania with those updates? What are your thoughts about the Walt Disney animatronic and the show itself, Walt Disney: A Magical Life, and anything else you wanted to add about the attractions during the 70th?
So I did get to see both of the ones that were open when I was there. I am happy because I do have another trip out to Disneyland, and right after that's the Walt Disney element is going to be added. So I'm excited to see that. I think any of us Disney fans, I kind of think it's going to be emotional. I don't know if that's, people might be listening to this and rolling their eyes, but there's just something, even when you're listening to the fireworks and you hear that the few words that they add of Waltz, it gets me every time. I don't know. I'm not even an emotional person, but that gets me for some reason. So I'm very excited for that. But I thought the other pieces, in the addition of Miguel and It's a Small World was really great. I was in a boat where there was a family that it was like that was a rock star for this child seeing it. And it was pure Disney magic to see that, where the child was going through and they're pointing and the grandpa's pointing and everything. And it was just a really nice moment to get to witness. And I thought the Toy Story piece of Midway Mania was really good too. I thought it was going to be a lot less, but it actually is like a full. I mean, the games, you're really seeing a lot of different elements to them in terms of the graphics that are used and just, different pieces throughout as you're going through the track. But I thought it was really well done. And it was nice to see something outside of Disneyland where they had it in DCA as well. So that was a good addition, I think.
Yeah, Steph, do you have any thoughts to add on any of those attraction pieces?
I am a highly competitive person, so I love them on Midway Mania. One of the things that they've added is that they've kind of scratched out, how it's like 1,000 points, 500 points. A bunch of them have become 700 or 7,000. So, like, I am counting on racking up my best Toy Story Midway Mania scores ever when I get to ride that a few more times, because you can just get so many more points so fast. So that's really fun. And And you know that Small World is one of my favorites. I love them adding the characters. I'm so sad that they haven't done that at Disney World yet because many
I
of the other
know.
mobile parks also have it. So I'm glad that it wasn't like a one-time thing, that they're continuing to evolve and add more characters in. I think that's just beautiful.
And then thoughts about the Walt Disney animatronic?
Oh,
Again, I know you haven't
I
seen it or the show.
I don't have my trip planned yet to go back and see it, but I will be going back to see it. And I'm really excited. I know there's controversy around it, and I think that's silliness, honestly. And Walt was fairly humble at times, sometimes not so much, but everybody who's like, he never wanted this. Well, maybe he would by now. You don't know. And maybe he just didn't want to toot his own horn so much. But I think it's fine for us to do that for him now and celebrate him. And I think it's a really nice way. He's been gone a long time. Disneyland's been around a long time. And I think it's really important to keep remembering the roots of Disneyland and why we even have this magical place.
Yeah, I'll agree. I think that it would be odd to hear Walt say, I would love an animatronic of myself at
Yeah.
Disneyland. I think we would maybe be put a little put off if Walt Disney had said that. Like we have to someday make sure you have an animatronic of me so people remember me. It was not very characteristic of Walt to focus on himself. So I think it's probably why. And I agree, Steph. I think that the controversy around it all stemmed from that one thing that he said, and it I'm sure, especially the way that animatronic technology has evolved, which I've written WDW magazine articles about, by the way,
Yeah.
over the last 70 years, he would be more impressed with how lifelike, and thinking great moments with Mr. Lincoln in the 1964 World's Fair was lifelike. They have come a far way from that, where it's going to be almost difficult to discern an animatronic from a real person. And I do agree that it's important to connect the parks to the founder, and especially everything that he did, and everything that he was. And I think it is going to be, to Kelly's point, very emotional to go and see it. And I'm preparing myself for a more emotional experience than I'm thinking in my head on the surface, just because I agree, Kelly, when you hear Walt's voice, I tear up with the Walt Disney One Man's Dream at Disney's Hollywood Studios. So I can't even imagine seeing something like that, followed by visually seeing him. It's going to definitely be a very monumental moment as a Disney fan. And I'm not trying to overplay it. I think it is going to be amazing to see that in person. So for me, like that's one of the prime reasons to go to Disneyland right now. At least make sure you wait until at least July 17th if you want to see it. But that's a highlight for me to go to Disneyland, is to just get the chance to see Walt Disney in Disneyland. And that's something you haven't seen in almost 70 years, right? It's been over 60 years since he was last there. So very, very moving thing to get to experience. So I'm always a fan of the attractions, and I am looking forward to seeing all those updates for those rides and then that new show. Outside of the attractions and experiences, the decor and the entertainment is the food, the drinks, the merchandise. A lot of the excitement for Disney fans comes to that limited edition, food and drink you can enjoy, or merchandise you can bring home with you. So was there anything special that you enjoyed when it came to dining at Disneyland for the celebration? And did you bring any merchandise home with you? Kelly, I'll go to you first for this one.
So I didn't do much of the dining in terms of kind of not the specialty event dining. So, I did the paint the night dining package, and I did the dessert party for World of Color, but I didn't have as much time as I would have loved to kind of go to some of the quick service locations and get some of the specialty items. There are a ton out there. And what I really liked as I was going through the menu options was that it wasn't all sweet items. I'm not a big sweets person. So there was a lot of options that were like, there's like a tuna melt. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to get that. So that's on my list for next time. But there's a lot of variety that they have. The merchandise wise, I did take a look at the pins that they had. I did not do the Disney key because I didn't feel that I had time, and that's the key that you get that you walk around to each of the different lands within Disneyland, and you're kind of unlocking the lock with your key, and then at the end you can go to the front of Disneyland, and you get once you're done doing all of those, you'll get a pin out of there. So that might be on my list next time. It is selling out like every time they have it. But I thought the merchandise was really well done. I love the classic and kind of vintage items that they've brought back. So there's a lot of great collections that they have. And I like that they did several different collections for the merchandise versus just having the, celebrate happy kind of look for everything.
Yeah, and Steph, before we get to you, I should add, and I'm not going to read the entire list, but just to give you an idea of some of the special food and drink that's offered for the 70th celebration. So this goes in alphabetical order. I'm going to skip around a little bit, but Alien Pizza Planet, you can get a barbecue chicken and pineapple pizza slice or a 70th celebration macaroon. It's how it's spelled. Of course, filling just like the aliens in Toy Story. That's filled with birthday cake, buttercream, and confetti cake center, finished with a chocolate birthday hat. If I skip down to Blue Bayou Restaurant, which is a really popular one, reservations are recommended. I would say probably even required for that one. Ribeye steak and prawns, vegetable heart salad, chocolate chip mousse, blueberry cocktail with popping spheres, and a Carl Strauss Brewing Company 70th anniversary IPA. Jumping down to Carnation Cafe, another popular one, also where reservations are recommended, if not required. Beef stroganoff, tropical rum cocktail, and going down to, let's do the Gibson Girl Ice Cream Parlor. You can get a banana split that has vanilla chocolate and strawberry ice creams topped with strawberries, pineapple, hot fudge, fresh banana, chopped nuts, whipped cream, and a cherry. Golden Horseshoe is another popular one. You could get the Cowboy Fries, which has fries, nacho cheese, sautéed ground beef, burger sauce, and butter pickles. Let's go down to Plaza Inn. They have a 70th celebration cake. You can get at Rancho del Zocalo, Steph's favorite place, the fried tamale walking taco or the mocha cream puff. And I'll pick one more. We'll do my favorite place, Tiana's Palace. You can get a house-filled celebration beignet filled with raspberry mousse, buttercream glaze, edible candle, and sprinkles. Steph, I'll turn it over to you now that I've taken some time to refresh your memory on some of the things that were new at the 70th anniversary.
I really loved, so I was there for a media event, and then I only actually had one day when everything was open to the public. So much like Kelly, I did not have enough time to do everything. But the food was really interesting to me. I did get to try the walking taco, and it was fantastic. I really loved, we talked to, at the event, we got to talk to some of the chefs, and they really did two different lines of food and beverage. So they had one that is all nostalgic based. So that has things like the tuna melt that's inspired by the old Hook's Galley. They have the banana split, but they also have, I think, a banana split churro, a few different banana split things because that was really popular. They have a ton of things featuring Fritos because, of course, they used to have Casa de Fritos. And so I really love that they were doing all those nostalgic things. And then, of course, they have the more celebratory line with the things like the birthday macaroon and there's a little birthday cake that looks like I think it's actually a different macaroon or a macaron that looks like a birthday cake. Mickey waffles with sprinkles baked right into them. All that really celebratory stuff. So the things that I did get to taste were fantastic. Would definitely recommend, and I'm going to go back and eat as many of them as I possibly can. And it's really nice that unlike a festival where you have a few weeks, now we have at least a year to go back and eat all of those.
Yes.
The merchandise, though, was out and about for people to buy, even though the event hadn't started. So I got a water bottle and a fanny pack. I bought the new book that is Don Hahn and I think Chris Martin wrote.
Chris Merritt. Yeah.
Thank you. And so that one is really great. I did buy the key to Disneyland. I did not get to actually use it, but I knew it was going to sell out. And I was like, on my next trip, I really want to do this. So I got that. And stuffed animals, like for my niece and nephew, I always get them the ones that have the outfits. And I also got the headband that has the new Mickey, Minnie, and Goofy. You can build your own headband, plush headband. And they're all in their little celebration outfits.
Yeah, I'll admit I'm not one for merchandise. I like to spend more of my money on the experiences and food and beverage than anything else. And that's sort of how I justify spending more in those categories is by saying I'm not going to buy as much merchandise. But there are two things that turn my head and the Disney Parks blog article about it. The Disneyland 70th celebration stainless steel tumbler, which essentially has a caricature type of map of Disneyland on it. It looks really, really cool. And then the other one is a uh, also a cup, but Disneyland 70th Celebration Tomorrowland Skyline Terrace Cup. And both of those just look like something I would want on display, or if not, something that I would use. I think I'm running out of room for for drinkware, Disney themed drinkware in my cabinet, but I might have to cycle through some things or find some place to store some of this stuff.
I use mine to hold all my pens and pencils.
There you go. That's a great idea. I should start using that, and that's how I'm going to justify it. And that'll be my pencil holder. That's perfect. Um, Now, I feel like we were, as always with things like this, I don't like to go down the list of everything because we'd be sitting here for 4 hours going through everything. But I feel like we've been relatively comprehensive in discussing some of the specialty items and experiences for the 70th anniversary. But before we wrap things up, I want to make sure we didn't miss anything, or if there was anything else you want to share about your experiences, whether it's a personal anecdote from your time there that we didn't get to cover, or an experience or an item that we haven't yet covered. If there is anything, feel free to chime in because I don't know if either of you have anything.
Something else that is actually opening at the same time as the new Walt show is an update to what they're showing in the Main Street Cinema, and it's called The Last Verse, and it's about the Sherman Brothers. So that is also something not to be missed if you're a big fan of them.
I had to add that to my list again. I'm glad I'm going to be out there for several days because I usually am not for Disneyland, and I always run out of time. So this way, I'm really gonna dig in and get a ton of podcast content and personal experiences to come away from this with. Kelly, anything else you wanted to add? Any other experiences or stories from your trip out there?
The only thing I would say is that, or what I'm kind of working through with a lot of my clients right now is how to really plan out your evenings now, because there are so many nighttime experiences that I am recommending to a lot of my families to consider park hopper tickets now. When, maybe in the past they were kind of focused on just one park per day. But there's just so much to do because you do have World of Color and everything over at Disneyland. Plus, we didn't even touch on, there's the Star Wars fireworks elements as well. And so if you're a Star Wars fan, those types of things. So it really is, and I think this is like the third time I'm saying it, but it's becoming for this celebration, especially, you need to have those extra days if you really do want to try to get in as much as you can. You're never going to do everything. We definitely know that. I think the three of us have said that too throughout this, but I would say, try to keep your nights open and be ready to get to those nighttime experiences because they are some of the best that we see across the parks.
I would
Yeah.
honestly recommend for people to make their advanced dining reservations for lunch if they can, just to keep the evenings more open.
That's a great point, Steph. Yeah.
Especially if you're going in the summer. Still, it's Anaheim weather tends to be relatively consistent compared to Orlando weather, but it's going to be usually pretty sunny and pretty hot. So in the middle of the day, especially if you're going in the summer months, that's a great piece of advice to hit up those restaurants for lunch instead of for dinner. Definitely a great idea. So I want to make sure people know where to go because now not only is this an opportunity to plug what you have, because I think you both have great resources available for all listeners of the show, but it's also a little more timely than ever when you're talking about a celebration like this. And each of you, I feel, has something specific to plug for the 70th anniversary. We'll go with Steph first, because I know yours is especially timely and maybe more so limited than even what Kelly's got going on. But for folks who are not aware of WDW Magazine, I don't know why, because I've said many times I am a freelance writer and I love writing for WDW Magazine. But where can people go to learn more, to subscribe, and what do you have going on specially for the 70th?
So anyone can go to www-magazine.com to find out more about our magazine or find blogs that we've written all about all of the offerings at Disneyland for the 70th anniversary. We don't just cover Walt Disney World, we cover Disneyland too. We actually have a quarterly magazine. Matt, you also write for us there, that's called DLR Magazine, and a quick link to get there. You can find it on the WW Magazine site, but if you just type in dlr-magazine.com, it will take you right to all the information about our Disneyland magazine. And our next issue is actually going to be largely about the 70th anniversary celebrations and also a lot of the history and Imagineering that has gone into the park over those 70 years. The cover is beautiful. It's a beautiful castle photo with all the new banners and decor on the castle. It's gorgeous. It's really going to be a collector's piece. And anyone who subscribes before or including July 15th of this year, you'll get that as part of your membership. Or if you join us afterwards, or you just want a one-off copy in August, you'll be able to add that onto your orders just as a single issue. But we're really, really excited about that one.
Yes, that one is a really exciting one to look forward to. And I was just looking back to see what I wrote in that issue. Oh yeah, so I actually wrote two articles in that DLR magazine issue. One is a lengthy one, but a history about New Orleans Square, and the other one is Big Thunder Mountain Railroad and my discussions with Disney legend and Imagineer Tony Baxter about creating Disney's first storytelling coaster. So if what Steph didn't say intrigued you enough, which I don't know why I wouldn't, those are two extra reasons to make sure to subscribe to that.
And we also have 15% off for all of your listeners if they use code Skyway.
That's another reason to make sure you at least try it out. Kelly, for you, I mean, you're always helping families, so no matter when listeners are hearing this, even if it's beyond the 70th anniversary and you're going back to listen back to old episodes, there's still a reason to reach out to you for Disneyland. But where can people go to work with you and follow you? And is there anything special you want to plug about the 70th anniversary?
Yeah, so if you'd like more information about working with me or just learning more about KMV, you can go to kmvtravel.com. And if you'd like to reach out to get a quote, set up a time just for a consultation call, just to talk through things, go to kmvtravel.com/skyway so that we know you came through Matt. But there's a lot going on for the 70th in terms of promotions that have been released. So it's a good time to start planning for Disneyland, especially if that is something you're thinking about. But like Matt said, if it's, past that time, whenever you're starting to think about your trip, even if it's a trip for 2 years down the line, reach out. I'm always more than happy to answer questions as you're starting to think about things and just kind of put together your plans. But you can reach out to me at kmvtravel.com, and I'm also on Instagram at kmvtravelco, and then my personal is Kelly's Magical Vacations.
And I'll add on top of that if you're also listening this year, if you need an extra incentive to go to Disneyland and work with Kelly, if you are not on Patreon or you're just a free member on Patreon, and if you do book through Kelly and let them know that you got sent from me, then I'll hook you up with some complimentary memberships to our highest tier on Patreon for a limited window. And so that'll help you get some extra content to get you excited for your trip, whether it's Disneyland or Walt Disney World or anywhere else. And if you are listening and you're a Patreon subscriber, as always, thank you. But also we're going to set you up with some Disney gift cards to make the most of your Disney trip. So extra reasons to work with Kelly and with Steph. And always benefits listening to Imagination Skyway to get some extra perks along the way. But Steph and Kelly, I want to thank you both so much for diving into the specifics, especially because you have had the chance to go to Disneyland already. And I am just reading off the menu of items that were shared on Disney Parks blog and from what I've seen. But it was great chatting with both of you, and we'll definitely have you both on again in the future. Welcome back to Imagination Central. Before you exit this episode, remember to follow Imagination Skyway on social media and share the show with anyone who might enjoy listening to our program. For ad-free episodes and bonus content, create a free account or sign up for a premium subscription at patreon.com/imaginationskyway. When you're ready for your next vacation, remember that listeners of Imagination Skyway can get rewarded for booking a trip to Disney in 2025 through KMV Travel. Simply fill out the form at kmvtravel.com/skyway and make sure that you select Imagination Skyway under the How Did You Hear About Us question to be eligible for a special gift from the team. Terms and conditions apply. As you disembark, please remember to remain fully seated until the podcast comes to a complete stop. Then gather your belongings and watch your head and step as you exit. Thank you for joining me aboard Imagination Skyway, and remember, if we can dream it, we can do it.